Welcome to this week's sermon preview. Carl, what's going on in your life right now? Anything good happened to you today?
Anything good happened to me today? Somebody bought me a whoopie pie and I ate that. A pumpkin whoopie pie.
Pumpkin whoopie pie.
That was good.
It's probably the best thing that happened to me in my day was a pumpkin whoopie pie.
I thought when I gave you the tweezers to pull out the splinter, that was a good thing too, though.
Well, that's true. I did have a splinter in my palm.
Yeah.
So we're starting a new series this month on 2 Timothy, and so this series is going to be focused on that book, and we're looking at kind of overall an idea of a test of truth. So how do we test the truth? So Carl, tell us a little bit more what we're thinking there.
Okay, so 2 Timothy, so you got Paul writing to his protege, someone who he's mentored, and he's trying to help him realize, and I think Timothy already knows this, but Paul's just trying to give him some help on that. There is some false teaching going on in where Timothy is at, and Paul wants him to realize, okay, don't be ashamed of the gospel message. Don't be ashamed of me. For Paul, he's been in prison and stuff like that, and then be aware of the true message. Don't get roped into any of this false teaching, and then how to handle it when you come across the false teaching. So I think that's a lot of what the book has to do. There's a lot of other things in there, but that's definitely an overarching theme in this letter.
So we have this idea of what is real and what is fake.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Yep. And we might see a little bit of that later.
Could be.
We'll find out. So, okay, this week we're looking at 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 1 through 7.
Yep.
7. So get us started on what are we looking at in there?
Okay, so he has some of the typical greetings and stuff, and I don't want to. I'm not going to. We won't cover that now, but I wouldn't take it lightly. Read it as you go through that. He also talks about this sincere faith, faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. So evidently, Timothy, he grew up in a Christian family, and that faith was passed on from his grandmother and his mother to him. So, Nick, what would you say about passing on the faith, and how have you experienced that?
Yeah, I know in my life I've experienced something similar to that, where I had a grandfather who was just really strong in the faith and definitely passed that on to my mom, and then both of my parents, I would say, did a pretty good job in working to pass the faith down to myself and my brothers, and making that a priority in our lives.
And I would say much the same thing. Two sets of grandparents. The one set, they were fairly elderly by the time I came along. I don't remember ever having a conversation with either one of them, really. Mm-hmm. Then the other set, they definitely lived longer. Some family dysfunction going on there. But both my parents would the faith they received from their parents was very strong and very real. And so, I think the idea of that being passed along to me, and then even as we tried to pass that along to our children, I mean, as a parent, which you're soon to be, that does become very, very big and real to you as you think about how do you pass this along. And you don't want to spoon feed that faith all the time. You want them to have their own faith, but you have to live it. You have to show it. You have to be that example, because you, as a parent, you're really looked up to by your children. And then it doesn't matter if we're talking they're 2 years old or 30 something. I mean, that's still going to happen. So, So,
and I think that's something that God has commissioned parents to do, we see it all over in Scripture, not just here, but the parents are commissioned to pass that faith down to their kids and raise them up in the faith, and just the importance of it. And that's one of the biggest things that parents are supposed to do for their kids.
Yeah, definitely. In the Old Testament, that's the building block for learning is the family unit and how to pass that along. Another thing that's in these first 7 verses is Paul telling Timothy, "I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands." So there you're talking about this fan the flame, fan into flame the gift of God, and you think about, so wow, all of us are gifted. Everybody, God has gifted us, but we also need to utilize those gifts and develop those gifts and fan into flame. So you have people in your life that help that to happen, I assume.
Absolutely. And there was a wide array of people that have done that for me. There's one instance in particular that just stands out to me over and over again. It was, I think, the second sermon I'd ever really done, where it's like a real sermon, and did the sermon, and then on the way home from church or the next day, there was an elder that called me up and just wanted to affirm that they saw the gifts of being a pastor in me through that sermon, and just really encouraged me, and I really felt like that was the moment where the flame was it was fanned into flame, right? That gift was fanned into flame, and really felt like, okay, it was a really strong affirmation of, this is where God is calling me to go, because before then I was still a little bit uncertain of like, is this the direction you want me to go? And that was kind of that final affirmation of like, okay, yeah, this is where.
Okay, now that's interesting. For me, I never thought I'd be a pastor. I mean, I was planning on being a teacher. I knew I was going to be a teacher ever since I was a little kid, and I was in college, and my dad. I grew up with my dad being a pastor. Then later my mom became a pastor too, but I grew up with my dad being a pastor. And when I was in college, a friend from my childhood was going to come visit the college, actually visit somebody else at the college, and wanted to know if he could stay in my room. And I didn't have a roommate, so I said, sure. So in that weekend, he said to me, so what's your major? And I said, math, secondary ed. And he said, oh, I always thought you'd be a pastor. and I thought, oh wow, I wonder where that came from. But that started me on that journey of thinking, well, am I supposed to or not? And I remember at that point, I think it was my sophomore year, thinking, well, there's no way I'd know what to preach every week. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, I focus on the one thing you think of for a pastor a lot is, can you talk? Can you preach on the scripture and all that? And I thought no, but by the time I was in my senior year, I knew I needed to explore seminary. I mean, the idea had grown on me. I felt God, calling me, and so the idea grew on me till I went to seminary part-time. Mm-hmm. I thought, I'm going to see if I even like this. So I was, working part-time and going to seminary part-time, and then that just like, shoot, I think I'm supposed to be doing this. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, great.
Then the last part here is, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So what's the difference? So what's the difference between living in it with a spirit of fear or living with a spirit of power, love, and self-control? And I have to think the power and love, that's got to be God-equipped, and the self-control comes from that too.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. The spirit of fear is something that comes from our own human nature and in our weakness, and the spirit of power and love and self-control, that comes from God. And so I think that might be the difference that I see.
No, that makes sense. So somebody just looking in at, let's say, my life, your life, what are they going to see if I'm living in the spirit of fear? How do I act? Mm. And if I'm living in the spirit of understanding God's power and God's love and living under His self-control, how do I act? I think about that and I think, well, there's got to be a world of difference, right? I mean, it should be evident, shouldn't it? I mean, if I'm living in a spirit of fear, and maybe that's fear of what? Fear of my destiny, fear of fulfilling my own dreams, right?
Fear of what people think of you.
Yeah, that's a good one. And that motivates a lot of people in a lot of different ways, Yeah, okay. So there's got to be you earlier you talked about the real and the fake, and well, there's got to be a big difference between. I mean, if the fake then is a spirit of fear, and the real is living in the spirit of power, love, and self-control. So those should really be evident. So here we've got something here to. So you help us along with this, and this is, I'm sure we've all wanted to do this, and so Nick and I are going to do this in front of you so that you can
We're
see
fulfilling all of your dreams.
So here we've got a couple of different cards. We've got going to have a name brand food, kind of a food item.
Yeah, and then from a local store.
Okay, so we've got these little things here, which, you know, can you see? Okay. No names, and so we've got this. So Nick, you close your eyes. I'm gonna move the bowls around.
Okay.
And let's see if you can tell the difference between the national brand item and the local.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So let's see. We're not ready yet.
Oh, not ready yet.
Right.
Well, my mouth's ready.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Reach in there. Take one. Eat. Or take three. Take three and eat. Don't open your eyes or anything.
I should have just taken one.
That's what happens when we're greedy. All right, and so go ahead and do the other one now. It's you just got to reach out there. There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm gonna take two this time.
All right. Okay, so first one was which? The local or the national brand?
First one was local.
Okay.
Second one was the name brand.
Okay, and you are correct. Okay, all right. Let's close my eyes. You
Okay.
do the same thing.
All right.
Ready? I don't know if you're really moving around or just a lot of. Okay, I got two.
All right. Ready for the second one?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Grab it.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I got two. Well, I've got my judgment. I would think the ones I ate first were the national brand, and then the local brand was second.
You'd be right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So it is possible to tell the difference between real and fake.
Take some discernment.
It does. It does. You have to pay attention. All right. So, for instance, if I was just somewhere and somebody had a whatever, and I just grabbed a couple and put it in, I might not be able to tell the difference.
Say if I grab the local brand here out on a bowl, I'd pop them in. I probably wouldn't say, "Oh, that's not the name brand."
Yeah. But when you compare the two, it was evident even in how it crunched. Which
It's true. The name brand was a little crunchier.
It
than
definitely
the local
was.
brand.
It definitely was. But the taste wasn't near as different as I thought it would be. So
Yeah.
okay, so that's kind of helps you realize as we do this real and fake. We want to explore more real and fake over the next 2-month period, October, November, and stay with us, and we'll try to work at that. So
Yeah. See you later.